I called to verify my birth certificate. Until she said, "Can you confirm your name again?" I laughed. "Jessica Davis." Then she went quiet. "That name doesn't exist." My stomach dropped. Because the name on my record was Ashley. And the truth was, I found out my name wasn't really mine sitting in my car outside work, engines still running, the AC humming like nothing was wrong. I wasn't looking for anything. I had just accepted a new job as an editor in downtown Phoenix, and HR needed a copy of my birth certificate. I'd never ordered one myself before. My mom always handled that kind of stuff growing up. Documents, forms, anything official, she had a system for everything. So I requested it online, paid the fee, and expected it to be done. Instead, I got an email saying there was an issue verifying my record. So I called. The clerk sounded polite but uneasy. She asked me to confirm my full name. Jessica Davis. She asked for my birth date. Then my parents' names. There was a pause. A long one. Then she said, "I'm seeing a birth record that matches your information. But it isn't under the name Jessica Davis." I actually smiled at first, like this was just a clerical error. "What do you mean?" Another pause. Papers shifting. "The name on the record is Ashley Davis." Everything in me went still. That's not me. But even as I said it, something felt off. Not wrong exactly. Just unsettled. Like hearing your voice played back and not recognizing it right away. She repeated it. Ashley Davis. Same birth date. Same hospital. Same parents. I ended the call and just sat there, staring through the windshield, trying to make it make sense. People don't just have the wrong name on their birth record. That's not a small error. That's not a typo. That's something that doesn't happen. Unless it does. I called again. A different employee told me the same thing. The record exists. It matches me. But the name is Ashley. She mentioned something about a legal name change filed months after birth. Said I could request the documents if I wanted more details. Months after birth. That part stuck. I drove straight to my parents' house after work. They still live in the same place outside Phoenix. Same quiet street. Same neighbors. Same front yard my dad never quite finishes fixing. My mom was in the kitchen when I walked in, drying dishes like always. It was so normal it almost made me doubt everything. She smiled. "You're early." I dropped my keys on the counter. "Hey, I need to ask you something." She kept drying the plate. "Okay, was I ever named Ashley?" The plate slipped slightly in her hands. Not enough to fall. Just enough. She didn't turn around right away. "Why are you asking that?" And right there, I knew. Not confusion. Not, "What are you talking about?" Just immediate tension. "I called the records office," I said. "They told me my birth record isn't under Jessica. It's under Ashley Davis." She slowly set the plate down. Then she sat. That was the moment everything shifted. "My mom doesn't sit unless something's serious." "We were going to tell you," she said. I laughed. "I'm 29. I know. Then when exactly were you planning on telling me my name isn't mine?" She flinched at that but didn't argue. "You were born Ashley," she said quietly. I waited for it to sound less insane. It didn't. "So why am I Jessica?" She pressed her lips together. "We changed it when you were a few months old." "That doesn't explain anything." She stared at the table, like the answer was written there somewhere. "Your father had a past situation before we got married." "That's not an answer." "It overlapped," she said. "With us." I felt my chest tighten. "You mean he cheated?" She nodded once. That part alone should have been enough to shock me. But it wasn't. Not compared to what came next. "What does that have to do with my name?" She hesitated. And that hesitation said everything. "Mom." She finally looked at me. The woman's name was Ashley. It took a second to land. Then it hit all at once. "You're telling me Dad cheated on you with a woman named Ashley, and then you named me Ashley?" Her voice broke slightly. I didn't know at first. I just stared at her. "He said he liked the name," she added. "I thought it was just a name." "And when did you find out?" She didn't answer right away. That told me enough. "How long?" I pushed. "A few months," she said. I leaned back in my chair, trying to process that. So for months, I existed as Ashley Davis. Named after the woman my father cheated with. My mom knew. My dad definitely knew. And they just kept going. Like it was normal. Then one day they decided it wasn't. "So you just changed it," I said. "Yes. Like that fixes it." She didn't respond. I looked around the kitchen, suddenly seeing it differently. Same cabinets. Same table. Same place I grew up. But now it felt like a set. Like something staged. "What else don't I know?" I asked. Her head snapped up. "That's everything." "No, it's not." "It is. It doesn't feel like it." She shook her head, like if she denied it enough times it would become true. "You're our daughter," she said. "That's what matters." It sounded like something you say when you're avoiding something bigger. And I could feel it. Something underneath all of this that wasn't being said. Because changing a name months after birth doesn't happen over something small. Not something you just move on from. "Where's Dad?" I asked. He's in the living room. Of course he was. Like none of this had anything to do with him. I stood up. Jessica. Don't, I said. Not right now. I walked out of the kitchen and down the hallway, my heart pounding harder with every step. Because now it wasn't just about a name. It was about why they hid it. And what else they buried with it. I stopped at the doorway to the living room. My dad was sitting there, watching TV, like it was any normal evening. He looked up at me. And the second he saw my face, something changed in his expression. Not surprise. Recognition. Like he knew this moment was coming. And that's when I realized. This wasn't just a story about a name. This was something they had both agreed to keep from me. And I was finally about to find out why. I stood there for a second, watching him, trying to figure out how someone could look that normal while sitting in the middle of something like this. He muted the TV without me saying anything. What's wrong? He asked. I didn't answer right away. I just stepped into the room, arms crossed, trying to keep my voice steady. Why was I named Ashley? He didn't even blink at first. Just looked at me like he was buying time. Your mom already talked to you? That annoyed me instantly. Not what he said, how he said it. Calm. Controlled. Like this was just another conversation. Yeah, I said. She told me enough to know you're not telling me everything. His jaw tightened slightly. There's nothing else to tell. I let out a short laugh. That's funny, because I just found out I had a completely different name for the first few months of my life, and somehow that's supposed to be the whole story? He leaned back in his chair, like he was already getting tired of this. We changed your name. That's it. No, it's not, I said, sharper now. You cheated on mom with someone named Ashley. Then you named me Ashley. Then you changed it. That's it. That's insane. He didn't react to the word insane. He just looked at me, eyes flat. It was a long time ago. That doesn't make it make sense. Silence stretched between us. I stepped closer. What actually happened? He rubbed his hand over his face, slow, like he was deciding how much to say. It wasn't serious, he said finally. It was before things were settled with your mom. Stop, I cut in. Don't rewrite it. She already told me it overlapped. That hit. I saw it in the way his shoulders shifted. It wasn't like that, he said, quieter now. Then what was it like? Another pause. Then he said, it ended. I stared at him. That's your explanation? He looked away. And that's when I knew I had to push harder. Did you love her? That question landed differently. He didn't answer right away. Didn't deflect. Just sat there, thinking. Not in a way that mattered, he said. That didn't even make sense, and we both knew it. Then why did you name me after her? I didn't, he snapped, sharper than before. I just liked the name. That's not believable. It's the truth. It's not. The room went quiet again, but this time it felt heavier. Like something was building under the surface. I took a breath. Slower this time. Was she still around when I was born? He hesitated. Just for a second. But that was enough. My stomach dropped. Dad. He exhaled through his nose, like he was already regretting where this was going. She wasn't part of our lives anymore. That's not what I asked. His jaw tightened. Was she still around when I was born? Another pause. Then, finally. Yes. It felt like the floor shifted under me. I blinked. So you were still in contact with her when mom was pregnant? It wasn't like that, he said again, but weaker this time. That's exactly what it sounds like. He didn't argue. And that silence said more than anything else. I shook my head, trying to keep up with it. Did mom know? Yes. That hit almost as hard as everything else. She stayed. I said, more to myself than to him. He didn't respond. Of course she stayed. I thought. Of course she did. I looked at him again. What happened to her? He rubbed his hands together, staring down at them. She left. When? Around the time you were born. That didn't sit right. Why? She just did. No, I said, stepping closer again. People don't just disappear like that. What happened? He didn't answer. And then it clicked. Not fully. Not clearly. But enough. Was she pregnant? The words came out quieter than I expected. But they hit like something loud. He froze. Actually froze. And in that moment, I didn't need him to answer. Because I already knew. My chest tightened. Dad. He closed his eyes for a second. Then he said it. Yes. Everything inside me dropped. I took a step back without meaning to. She was pregnant? I repeated, like maybe saying it again would make it less real. He nodded once. I laughed, but it sounded wrong. Hollow. So what, there's just another kid out there somewhere? I don't know, he said quickly. I never heard from her again. That's not an answer. It's the truth. You expect me to believe she was pregnant and just disappeared? I tried to reach her, he said, frustration creeping into his voice now. She didn't respond. She didn't want anything to do with me. Or you didn't want anything to do with her, I shot back. That's not what happened. Then what did happen? He didn't answer. Again. Always that same wall. I looked toward the kitchen. My mom was still there, sitting at the table, not saying a word, not stepping in. She knew all of this. She'd been sitting with it my entire life. And somehow, I was the last one to know. I turned back to him. "You named me Ashley while she was pregnant," I said slowly. While this whole thing was happening. "It wasn't like that," he repeated, but there was nothing behind it now. "It was exactly like that," I said. "And then you changed it." "Yes." "Why?" That question hung in the air longer than any of the others. Because this time, he didn't answer right away. And when he finally did, his voice was quieter. Because it became a problem. A problem. I felt something twist in my chest. "What does that mean?" He shook his head. "It just didn't feel right anymore." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I'm giving you." And there it was again. That wall. That refusal to go further. But now it felt different. Because now I knew enough to know there was more. A woman named Ashley. Pregnant at the same time my mom was. Still in contact with my dad when I was born. Then suddenly gone. And somehow I ended up with her name, before it was taken away. I looked at him, really looked this time. And for the first time, I didn't see my dad as just my dad. I saw someone who had made a decision. A decision that shaped everything that came after. "What aren't you telling me?" I asked quietly. He didn't respond. But this time, it didn't feel like avoidance. It felt like fear. And that's when I realized something that made everything worse. This wasn't just a messy past. This wasn't just cheating or regret or a bad decision they moved on from. There was something about this they didn't want me digging into. Something they had both agreed to bury. And now that I knew about the name and the pregnancy, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Because if that woman really did have a baby, then there was someone out there who might have been living the life I thought was mine. And the only reason I didn't know anything about it was because my parents made sure I never would. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a minute. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every word my dad said, every pause, every moment he chose not to answer. It wasn't just what he admitted. It was everything he avoided. A woman named Ashley. Pregnant. Still around when I was born. Then suddenly gone. And somehow, that turned into me being named Ashley, and then not. It didn't line up. People don't just disappear like that. Not without a reason. Not without something behind it. By morning, I already knew I wasn't going to let it go. I called in sick to work. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I started digging. The first place I went was the county records office. Same building I'd called the day before. Beige walls, cold air, that quiet, official feeling like everything inside mattered more than the people in it. I walked up to the counter and gave my name. Jessica Davis. The woman at the desk, Melissa Grant, according to her badge, recognized it almost immediately. "You called yesterday, right?" "Yeah," I said. "I need everything tied to my birth record. The name change. Any filings. Whatever exists." She gave me a look, not unfriendly, just cautious. "I can process a request, but some documents may be restricted. I'll sign whatever I need to." She nodded slowly, then slid a form toward me. "Fill this out. It'll take some time to pull everything." I sat down in one of those hard plastic chairs and filled in my information again. Same name, same date, same parents. Except now it didn't feel like mine. When I handed it back, she glanced over it, then disappeared into the back. I waited. 10 minutes. 15. 20. Every second felt longer than it should have. When she came back, she had a thin file in her hands. Too thin. She set it down on the counter. "This is what we have available without additional authorization," she said. I opened it. Birth record. Original name, Ashley Davis. Then a legal name change form, dated 4 months later. New name, Jessica Davis. Reason for change, personal preference. I stared at that line longer than anything else. Personal preference. That was how they explained it. That was how it got recorded. Like someone just decided they didn't like how it sounded. There was nothing else in the file. No notes. No additional documents. No explanation. Just a clean change. Too clean. "Is this everything?" I asked. Melissa hesitated. "This is everything attached directly to your birth record." That wording stuck. "Attached directly?" She nodded. "If there were any related filings not linked to your name, they wouldn't show here." My chest tightened slightly. "Like what?" She gave a small shrug. "Depends. Custody filings. Paternity claims. Things like that." That word hit harder than it should have. Paternity. I closed the file slowly. Would there be anything like that connected to my parents? She didn't answer directly. Just said, "You'd have to search separately. Different request." Of course I would. Nothing about this was going to be simple. I thanked her, even though I didn't feel thankful, and walked out of the building with that file in my hands like it was something fragile. It didn't feel like answers. It felt like a door that had been opened just enough to show me there was more behind it. I sat in my car again, same spot as yesterday, but everything felt different now. Because now I had proof. Not just something my parents said. Something official. Something that said I had been Ashley. And then I wasn't. And nobody thought I deserved to know why. That's when I decided I wasn't asking them anything else. Not yet. Because every answer they gave came with something missing. So I needed something else. Someone else. I drove across town to a place I hadn't been in years. A small real estate office tucked between a dry cleaner and a nail salon. The sign out front still had the same name on it. Barbara Martinez. She'd known my parents forever. Not close family, but close enough to know things. The kind of person who remembers details you don't think matter until they do. When I walked in, she looked up from her desk and blinked. Jessica. Hey. She smiled, surprised. Wow. It's been a while. Yeah, I said. I needed to ask you something. She studied my face for a second, like she could already tell this wasn't a casual visit. Okay, she said slowly. What's going on? I sat down across from her. This might sound weird, I started. But do you remember anything about my parents, before they got married? Her expression changed immediately. Not dramatically. Just a slight shift. Enough. Why are you asking that? I just need to know if there was ever someone else. She leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. Jessica. Please, I said. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't important. She hesitated. Then sighed. There was someone, she said. My heart started pounding. What do you know? Not everything, she said quickly. Just what people talked about back then. Which is? She looked toward the window, like she was deciding how much she should say. Your dad was seeing someone before your mom. It got messy. People noticed. Noticed what? That it didn't really end cleanly, she said. That lined up. What about after I was born? She paused. And that pause felt exactly like the ones my parents kept giving me. Barbara. She looked back at me. I remember there being talk, she said slowly. That the other woman didn't just disappear. My chest tightened. What does that mean? She hesitated again. Some people thought she had a baby. I felt like the air got pulled out of the room. That's not a rumor, I said quietly. That part is true. Her eyes widened slightly. Oh. I leaned forward. Did anyone ever see her after that? Hear anything? Barbara shook her head. No one knew for sure. But what? She didn't leave right away, she said. That's what I remember. My heart skipped. What do you mean? She was still around, Barbara said. Even after you were born. That hit harder than anything else so far. Because that wasn't what my dad said. He said she left around the time I was born. Not after. Are you sure? I asked. She nodded slowly. I remember because it caused tension. Tension how? She gave a small, uncomfortable smile. People talk. Especially in smaller circles. It wasn't exactly a secret that things weren't clean between your parents back then. I sat back, trying to process it. Because now the timeline didn't match. Not even a little. My dad said she disappeared. But she didn't. She was still there. After I was born. Which meant everything around that time was a lie. I stood up slowly. Jessica. Thank you, I said, already backing toward the door. Hey, she called gently. Just be careful with whatever you're looking for. I nodded, but I wasn't really listening. Because now my head was spinning in a completely different direction. This wasn't just about a name anymore. It wasn't just about a pregnancy. It was about a timeline that didn't make sense. A woman who didn't disappear when she was supposed to. A baby that may or may not exist. And parents who clearly weren't telling me the full truth. I got back in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel tighter than I realized. Because now I had a new question. Not just who she was, but how long she was actually part of my life. Without me even knowing it. I didn't go home after that. I just sat in my car, engine off this time, hands still on the wheel, staring straight ahead like if I stayed still long enough, everything would rearrange itself into something that made sense. It didn't. Because now the story I'd been given was broken. My dad said she left when I was born. But she didn't. She stayed. Which meant something happened after I was born, something they never told me. And whatever it was, it mattered enough for both of them to lie about it for almost 30 years. That was the part one couldn't ignore. Not the cheating. Not even the pregnancy. The lie. I pulled my phone out and went back to the one thing I hadn't tried yet. The hospital. I drove there without thinking about it too much. Same one listed on my birth record. Same place I'd technically been brought into the world, even if I didn't know under what name anymore. The building hadn't changed much. Same glass entrance, same sterile smell, same quiet tension in the waiting areas. I walked up to the front desk and told them I needed access to my birth records. They gave me the usual response. Privacy policies. Limited access. Submit a request. But I didn't leave. I already requested through the county, I said. I just need confirmation on something. The woman at the desk looked hesitant. What kind of confirmation? I swallowed. Was there another woman admitted around the same time as my mother, under the name Ashley Thomas? The name felt heavy coming out of my mouth. She paused, clearly not expecting that. I can't give out patient information. I'm not asking for details, I cut in. Just whether the name exists in the system for that time. She hesitated. Then, slowly, she turned her screen slightly, typing something in. A few seconds passed. Then her expression changed. Not dramatically, but enough. Yes, she said carefully. There is a record of someone by that name admitted within that time frame. My heart started pounding. Was it for labor? She hesitated again. I really shouldn't. Please. She looked at me, weighing it. Then gave a small, almost reluctant nod. Yes. Everything inside me dropped. So she didn't just disappear, I said quietly. The woman didn't respond, but she didn't need to. I stepped back from the desk, my mind racing. Same hospital. Same time. Same situation. 2 women. Pregnant. With the same man. I felt sick. I walked out of the hospital like I wasn't fully in my body, like everything around me had gone slightly out of focus. Because now the question wasn't if she had a baby. She did. The question was, what happened after that? I didn't realize I was already driving back to my parents' house until I was halfway there. I wasn't thinking clearly anymore. I just needed answers. Real ones. Not the filtered version they kept giving me. When I got there, both cars were in the driveway. Good. I didn't knock. I went straight inside. They were both in the kitchen this time. Talking. They stopped the second they saw me. And I didn't give them time to say anything. She didn't leave. My voice came out sharper than I expected. My dad's expression changed immediately. What? She didn't leave, I repeated. She was at the hospital. Same time. Same place. Silence. Thick. Heavy. I looked at both of them. You lied. My mom's face went pale. My dad stood up slowly. You went digging. Yeah, I said. Because you wouldn't tell me the truth. There's nothing else to tell. Stop saying that. I snapped. There is, and you both know it. No one spoke. So I kept going. She had the baby, I said. At the same hospital. At the same time. So what happened after that? My mom looked at my dad. That one glance said everything. And suddenly, everything in me went cold. Because this wasn't just something he was hiding anymore. This was something they both agreed to keep buried. What did you do? I asked, quieter now. No one did anything, my dad said quickly. That's not true. It is. Then explain it, I said. Explain how 2 women gave birth to your children at the same time and somehow only one of them exists in this family. My mom let out a shaky breath. Jessica. No, I said, my voice breaking slightly. No more half answers. No more, it doesn't matter. It does matter. It's my life. Another silence. Then my dad looked at my mom. And something passed between them. Something final. My chest tightened. What? I said. What is it? My mom sat down slowly, like her legs couldn't hold her anymore. And then she said the one thing I wasn't ready for. There was a moment where we didn't know which life was going to fall apart. I frowned. What does that even mean? She looked up at me, eyes filled with something I couldn't quite read. After you were both born, things got complicated. Both. The word hit like a shock. You're saying? Yes, she said. There were 2 babies. I felt like the room tilted. And? I pushed. What happened? My dad ran a hand over his face, clearly struggling now. The other woman, she wasn't stable, he said. She didn't have support. She didn't want me involved at first. Then suddenly she did. Then she didn't again. That doesn't explain anything. It was chaos, he snapped. Everything was happening at once. And your solution was what? I shot back. He didn't answer. My mom did. She came to us, she said quietly. I froze. What? She came to us after the birth, my mom continued. She was overwhelmed. Scared. She said she couldn't do it. My chest tightened. Do what? My mom swallowed. Be a mother. The room went silent again. And something inside me started to unravel. What are you saying? I asked slowly. My mom's voice dropped. There was a point where we thought. She couldn't finish it. My dad did. We thought we might end up raising both of you. Everything stopped. Completely. I stared at them, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it might actually hurt. Both of you. You're saying, she gave you her baby? No, my dad said quickly. It never got that far. But you considered it. Silence. That was answer enough. I felt like I couldn't breathe. So for some period of time, I said slowly, trying to piece it together, you had me, and you had her baby, and you were deciding what to do? It wasn't like that, my mom said weakly. It sounds exactly like that. No, she said, shaking her head. Nothing was finalized. Nothing was legal. It was just confusion. Fear. Bad decisions. And then what? I asked. My dad looked at the floor. She left, he said. This time, it sounded different. Not like a clean exit. Like something unresolved. And took the baby? Yes. I let out a shaky breath. Then why change my name? I asked. Another silence. Then my mom said it. Because for a while, we didn't know if she was coming back. My stomach dropped. And if she did? My dad finally looked at me. We didn't want anything tying us back to her. The words landed harder than anything else. Not just the fear. Not just the situation. The decision. They didn't just change my name because it reminded them of her. They changed it because they were trying to erase the connection. Completely. Like it never happened. Like she never existed. Like that moment, where there were two babies, could be forgotten. I took a step back, my mind spinning. Because now everything felt different. Not just my name. Not just my past. But the space between what almost happened and what actually did. There was another version of my life. One where I wasn't the only child in this story. One where things went slightly differently. And I might not even be standing here right now. I looked at both of them. And for the first time, I didn't just see parents who made mistakes. I saw people who made choices. Big ones. Quiet ones. The kind that don't disappear just because you stop talking about them. And suddenly, the question wasn't just about the other woman anymore. Or the other child. It was about me. About who I was supposed to be. Before they decided otherwise. I didn't say anything for a while after that. Not because I didn't have questions. I had too many. But none of them felt big enough for what I was trying to understand. Two babies. For some period of time, my parents stood in a hospital, holding me, while another version of their life existed in the next room. And they considered it. Even if nothing was finalized. Even if nothing was signed. They thought about raising both of us. I kept replaying that part in my head. Not the outcome. The moment. Because something about that moment mattered more than anything else they'd told me. I looked at my mom first. Did you hold the other baby? Her face broke a little at that. Yes, she said quietly. That answer hit deeper than I expected. Not because it was shocking, but because it made everything real in a way nothing else had. This wasn't just a story anymore. It wasn't just something that almost happened. She held that baby. She looked at that baby. She imagined a life where that baby stayed. I turned to my dad. Did you? He nodded once. No hesitation. That somehow made it worse. So what changed? I asked. Why didn't it happen? My dad leaned back slightly, like he was trying to put distance between himself and the question. She changed her mind, he said. She came back and took the baby. That's it. It was never official, he added. There was nothing to stop her. I watched his face carefully. There was something off about it. Not guilt exactly. More like discomfort. Like there was still something he wasn't saying. She just walked away, I said slowly, and you never saw her again? That's right. I waited. Nothing else came. I looked at my mom. Did you ever try to find her? She shook her head. No. Why not? Her answer came too fast. Because it was over. That word again. Over. Like something that cleanly ends. But nothing about this felt clean. I nodded slowly, but inside, something didn't settle. It didn't feel finished. Not even close. I took a step back, putting space between me and both of them. Do you realize how insane this sounds? I said quietly. Neither of them responded. You named me after her, I continued. While she was pregnant. While everything was happening. Then you changed it because you were scared she'd come back. And you just never told me. My mom's eyes filled again. We thought it was better this way. For who? Silence. Exactly. I let out a breath, slower this time. I've lived my entire life thinking I was Jessica, I said. That everything about me was straightforward. Normal. And now I find out I was someone else first, because of a situation you both decided to bury. My dad shifted slightly. It didn't change who you are. I laughed, but it didn't sound right. It literally did. Neither of them had a response for that. And that was the moment I realized something. They weren't going to give me anything else. Not because they didn't have more. But because whatever was left, they had already decided I wasn't supposed to know. I looked at them both one last time. I'm not asking you anything else, I said. My mom looked up quickly. Jessica. I mean it, I cut in. Because every answer you give me comes with something missing. I grabbed my keys from the counter. I'll figure it out myself. That clearly scared them. Jessica, please, my mom said. Don't go looking for something that won't help you. That made me stop. Not turn around. Just stop. Won't help me. I repeated. Yes, she said softly. Some things are better left alone. I stood there for a second. Then I said, that's easy for you to say. You already know the truth. And I walked out. I didn't go home. I didn't go back to work. I drove for a while without really thinking about where I was going, just letting the road take me wherever it wanted. Because for the first time in my life, I felt like I didn't fully belong to the version of my story I'd been given. Jessica Davis. That name felt constructed now. Safe. Clean. But not complete. Ashley Davis. That name felt heavier. Not because I remembered it. But because I didn't. Because it existed without me. Because it was tied to something my parents were willing to hide. I ended up parked outside a random coffee shop I'd never been to before. I didn't go inside. I just sat there, watching people come and go, living their normal lives, carrying names that actually belonged to them. And I kept thinking about one thing. There's someone out there who might be connected to me. Someone who existed at the same time I did. Someone my parents almost brought into this house. Someone whose life split away from mine before I was old enough to remember anything. And the only difference between us was a decision, a moment, a choice they made, or didn't make. I don't know if I'll find her. I don't know if she even wants to be found. And I don't know if knowing more will actually make any of this better. But I do know one thing. I can't look at my life the same way anymore. Because now I know. It could have been completely different. So I don't know what the right move is. Do I leave it alone, accept the life I have, and stop digging into something that might just make everything worse? Or do I keep going and find out what really happened to the other half of the story?